as per my understanding, there is a difference between women empowerment and women equality. Women equality is a right of every single woman, while on the other hand, women empowerment is something you need to reach equality. So ma'am, can you please elaborate better on this topic for our understanding?
Okay, this is the first time that I really had to think about this. When you empower a woman, the equality is an outcome of that. Right? When you empower a woman to speak, when you empower a woman enough to study, when you empower a woman, automatically equality will be enough.
So they propel.
Yes, one propels the other and comes to that kind of balance. Equality is a balance, right? But to come to that kind of a balance, you have to empower it.
Yeah. So ma'am, what are some of the benefits having empowered women in an organization? The benefits.
Do you know that it's been seen in studies that if a woman takes a loan, she's going to work and give back a loan. If a woman is there on boards as a very integral part of the workforce, there will always be dedication. She will never up and leave. A woman will stay on longer in a corporate house. I don't want to demean anybody, but men will jump far faster from place to place, whereas a woman will stay on with an organization longer. So investment in women is actually, it makes very much more sense than a lot of things, because when you do that, you are looking at your organization and giving it that, not only giving it a gender balance, we are allowing or empowering women enough to run their homes and be self-sufficient in so many ways, but you're empowering your organization as well. It's a mindset which women bring, which can be really, really powerful for the organization.
For everyone.
For everyone, yes.
As someone providing free legal assistance to individuals facing domestic violence, what are the biggest challenges you encounter in your work? Are there systematic issues such as lack of resources, societal stigma, or legal loopholes that make it difficult to support victims effectively? How do you overcome these challenges?
I also run a domestic violence helpline, right? So it's not a normal helpline, it's a legal counseling helpline. So we tell women how to write a complaint, what to write in it, where to go when certain things happen. So the challenges of running my kind of free legal aid for women below the earning capacity of 5,000 rupees is very difficult. First and foremost, these are women for whom just going up and fighting cases when they sit at home and food doesn't automatically come onto their table for their children and for themselves. These are women who will go out and work. So, they are up against a system. The judicial system is not easy in our country. To get up and fight is difficult.
For how long generally these cases go on?
They just go on.
Do they involve that monetary?
Yes, so
throughout?
For the domestic violence law, you're supposed to get orders in 3 months. It doesn't happen. Till that time, the order comes. How are the women to survive? You're going on getting date after date. So how are the women going to survive? How are they going to feed their children?
Exactly.
Right? So these are inherent issues which are very problematic. So in our case, very often when the women come, we are giving them money as well, just on the side, whatever I can do, at a personal level, whatever. And I feel that really a lot of judiciary and basic things need to be sensitized to certain things.
And are there any kind of threats which they get during the
Of
process?
course, I was speaking from the perspective of my own organization, where my lawyers are fighting cases. But when women go and fight legally, it's very hard because the monetary, everything is in the hands of men.
Yeah.
Lawyers are bought over. So many things happen. There's threats. In my own case, I was threatened that I'll throw acid on your face. I'll, have you picked up. So those kind of issues, it's not as if it happened only with me. It happens with everybody, a lot of them. And so it's very disheartening also sometimes when we hear these blanket situations that all domestic violence cases are wrong. And, people say these things and even judges say these things, and they shouldn't. Because every case should be seen as on a case-to-case basis. Whoever's wrong is wrong, whoever's right is right. Not all men are wrong and not all women are wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
We need to understand those things. violence. So making sweeping statements causes agitation. That kind of agitation causes a disturbance in society, which shouldn't happen. There should be balanced talk and very balanced views in everything.
There must be cases when women would, just give up in between. Like, okay,
Yes, women stop fighting.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean, because where are they? I never fought my ex-husband.
You never did?
No.
I was actually wanting to ask.
Yes, please ask. I mean, anything. But I didn't have the capacity. I didn't have the backing. And I didn't have the money. And my ex-husband was a lawyer.
Yes.
Right? So in spite of all the violence that happened with me, I didn't have the capacity to fight. Either I could concentrate on my children,
Yeah.
or I could concentrate on fighting a case which would take 20 years. And in fact, my ex-husband threatened me. He said that I'll drag you through the courts for 20 years and then you will come crawling back to me. And it didn't happen. Okay. Because Delhi police was with me, and so I got my children. But I didn't fight for anything. He never gave me alimony, maintenance, nothing. So I started life from scratch. But you're up against a system.
Ma'am, what do you mean by blanket statement?
A lot of things have happened which are not correct. There are people who misuse the law. There is a law, and there are people who misuse the law.
Right.
But there are also people who do not misuse the law, who fall away because of the fact that they don't have the capacity, the money, the backing, and so many other issues come into play. That's what I'm saying, that for everybody, for every case that happens, every judge and society itself should see it as a case-to-case basis. Because when you give equal rights to people, then you make sure that nobody is unjustly treated.
So, moving further, I would like to address another recent issue, which is the misuse of Article 498A. So, ma'am, what are your thoughts on the perception that Article 498A is being misused in some cases, and how can we address this concern without undermining its importance for genuine victims?
Yes, that we need to see all cases on a case-to-case basis. Okay? It worries me when women do misuse the law, because then it takes away the strength of the woman who's actually suffering. I work with the sexual harassment of the workplace law as well. And in that also we have women who have put in false complaints. And we have women who have put in real complaints. So I'm strict with whoever is wrong, because there is, if you are doing something wrong, you need to be punished. Whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. Those cases that are genuine must be treated genuinely.
When police records a statement, that is also a very crucial step. Otherwise, how else we differentiate which one is genuine, which one is not?
There's so many reforms that are required in our country. Police reforms is also one of them.
Yeah.
So the systems are changing, but like I said earlier, every progress, every cycle takes time. And those times, like we now have a different kind. Earlier on, it was the IPC.
Yeah.
Now we have the BNS, the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita. So things are changing, and it's hard to live through these cycles till the change actually happens. But we have to have patience, and we have to understand that.
So, ma'am, Article 498A, so this rule, it can be even filed without any hearing or anything. And how do you think we can find out if it's genuine or not?
So Gita, that is for judges to see, actually. And even the judge needs to be sensitized on many things.
And with your experience, you must have seen many cases wherein,
Yes, we've seen genuine and we've seen non-genuine as well.
Yeah.
Because now I've had so much experience dealing with so many people and women. The justice system is a very difficult system to access, which is why I always believe that our first thing has to be in society, our first change. We need to make the change. When I give talks and lectures, I always say, how much are we thinking? How much are we doing? How much are we explaining? I'm only one person, right? In my own case, the kind of work I do is not any kind of work which every woman cannot do. Okay, maybe you won't do 105, but maybe you can do 3 or 2. But each of us can make that change.
How does this narrative of misuse of Article 498A affect the overall movement for women's rights and their access to justice? What role can social workers and NGOs play in creating a balanced approach that supports victims of domestic violence while addressing concerns about potential misuse of laws like Article 498A?
You must realize one thing in life, and this is not only true of men and women and gender. Wherever there is absolute power, there's always people who are prone to misusing it.
Yes.
Whereas you must have the right to lodge an FIR if something is wrong, but you also need the judges in front of whom the cases come to be able to sit and sift through what is right and what is wrong, right? Every person has the right to lodge an FIR using whatever sections of the law. However, it is up to the judge as to how to carry forward that case and see whether there is even genuineness attached to it. Right? And I always say that my work is like putting a band-aid on a big wound. If you have a big wound and there's blood gushing out of there, it's only a band-aid. The problem comes from our society, and where is the mindset that we need to change? At the end of the day, it's only about mindsets.
Yeah, so ma'am, I guess the audience would like to ask some questions.
Yeah, please.
I'm a mother of 2 daughters. What suggestion you give me? कैसे उनको advise करूँ, कैसे grow करूँ?
So my daughter is now 32, almost. I think one of the best journeys I've had is with my children. My mother and my daughter are my 2 best friends. The biggest thing that you do for your children is to communicate with them, to treat them as friends and yet keep the balance that you are a parent and you have to keep the discipline. That kind of balance between love and discipline is very, very important. No outside person they need to go to. If you can communicate with them and show them that you are there all the time. Teach them to speak out against wrong. Teach them to take a stand against anything which is not all right. But also teach them that all of us work within certain circumstances. So we need to go very wisely in our journey of life. When we take on battles, we have to understand and think out before we take steps to battle in which way. You know, one of my books is called Woman of the Elements. It's my first book.
Okay.
So it talks about the different elements in us as women. Sometimes you need to be fire and you need to just, get rid of things and fight. But sometimes, if there's an obstacle and you take out the element of water in you, what does water do? It waits, right? It builds up its water, builds up its strength, and then goes over the obstacle. Mm-hmm. So when to be what is what we have to teach our daughters and our children in general. That not every circumstance is the same. But you might want to be someone different today. And the need might arise for you to be something different tomorrow. So never be ashamed of what you feel or what you think or you all are carrying the baggage of your experiences. But understand what you have to be when.
Ma'am, sometimes it happens कि she told me कि मम्मा इस boy ने मुझे ये comment किया. So at that time I told her कि don't to speak with him or कोई reply नहीं था. Is it right?
Depending on what he said. So sometimes you should not keep quiet. If it's something which is very, very demeaning, you need to take it up. But maybe not in a one-to-one, maybe to a senior or to your teacher. Sometimes people are really silly, so then you just don't have to engage with them. But sometimes when it's serious, then you do have to take a stand, right? In our time, I was just telling you, we always told, adjust. It's the worst thing in the world to say to anybody, नहीं करना चाहिए. कभी-कभी ठीक है, लेकिन not always.
Okay, so ma'am, I have a question. I'm working with a corporate and I see so many ladies, girls are working with us. But still we have stories that they have been ill-treated or not exactly treated like men. at their homes. So, we are talking about gender equality at the corporate level, but at homes, personally, I don't feel there's a big change that we have come across, except for we only encourage our girls to work in corporate, but to speak, as you said.
We have some foundation.
I would really want to normalize this thing also. Like, okay, today we are all earning. But still, why if our husband is earning, his earnings would help his parents.
Right.
If I am earning, why would my earnings
Yeah.
help my parents? And no one is stopping me. We are from a good families, but I would still consider about, many other
See,
families.
one of the main things what we still need to evolve into is that both sets of parents are our parents.
Yeah.
So, when I go into corporate houses and I take on conversations for the sexual harassment at the workplace law, it comes from the core of responsibility. So, when we feel responsible for each other, that change starts happening. One thing I always encourage wherever I work is that you must have a very strong sense of sisterhood. So, even in the villages or at your workplace, if women stand by women, there will always be a change. We don't listen to each other. We don't support each other.
Yeah.
We look at each other and say, oh, look at the way she's dressing.
Yeah.
Look at the way she's speaking.
brought down.
Yeah, why do we need to do that? When we encourage each other, we rise. We forget that. So it's very important. Even if there are problems, everybody's life has problems, Betty. But at the end of the day, we support each other. Our problems come down, they lessen. That burden lessens.
But ma'am, don't you think this type of workshops are also for boys, not for women only?
Very important.
Yeah.
So my son went through a lot of problems because of the violence. He stopped speaking for 5 years or many years he didn't speak. And then he went on to do his class 12, did very well, then did gender studies as his topic. So when he went for admission into Ambedkar University, the interviewer asked him that look around you, you've come to take up a subject like gender studies as your master's. So all of the people who have applied are mostly girls. And you're one of the very ginchunke few people over here who's a boy. So he said, you can't have gender equality without the boys. So that's how he got in and did his master's.
So, do you think Bollywood plays a major role in glorifying male superiority? And also, movies like Animal, which shows domestic violence and women as something like a toy. So, what's your opinion on that?
So, the soft power that we have really messes up a lot of minds and can bring out so much positive change that it is unbelievable. I feel a lot of our society, we've been trained to think a certain way because of the kind of things that have happened in our past in Bollywood, which has not always been very positive, right? However, with Bollywood is also, I feel, awakening to many, many things now, which was very necessary, and it's a very good thing. And the second thing is that the opening up of social media has brought about a lot of change. You look at so many things. And I think that kind of power, which is actually has messed up our minds a lot, is now taking our minds towards a different level. So if we have the balance where in the home we are taught certain basic values, and then we can use that soft power into, like even podcasts like this on social media, really help open up minds. So the balance between only Bollywood and only social media, only this or only that, it's the balance between each and everything that really grows us as a society. That is also coming about.
What about the uneducated population, like when they say alpha male, these kind of things trending on social media, they tend to fall that because they don't have that education to know the difference.
It's a very hard one. It's very difficult because, when you deal with issues on gender, on women, on rapes, on so many allied issues that come up with this kind of thing, uh, we really need to take charge of a lot of things. It's very difficult. It's a difficult situation to find balance. In fact, there was something that has come up today only. Certain laws which are going to come up on how much of you can have on YouTube and other.
Okay.
So they are working on this. But it's not going to be an easy thing.
Digital
There's just
laws.
too much.
There has to be a
Yes.
certain judiciary for digitization
Yes,
these days.
absolutely. We need to be disciplined in certain ways because we can't expect that our 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds who can get onto the phones, and they do these days.
Yes.
And what are they being exposed to?
This is also a positive side to social media that we are doing the podcast.
Exactly.
And so probably it is also about, choices.
It's also about balancing out, and it's also about what you are teaching in the home. When you talk about just taking off at a tangent with this, domestic violence, everyone thinks of it as one of the kinds of violences, right?
Yeah.
Rape is a violence, domestic violence. No, I don't see it like that. I believe that domestic violence is the core of every other kind of violence. Because when a child sees domestic violence in the house,
Right.
we go out and do exactly that. So when you regulate things in your home, when you give value systems, when you give love, when a child sees mutual respect between parents, those are the values that he will take out. What kids are being exposed to, what our youth is being exposed to. It's very worrying at times. But we build up our heroes to be these perfect people or these उसके पीछे जाओ, अगर वो ना बोलती है तो उसका पीछा करो, वो तो प्यार करेगी. What nonsense. Those kind of things just need to really
And they have made a change nowadays. They are not displaying this in these movies.
As she mentioned about the comments that boys make, I think that when your age increases and when your social interaction increases, we as a women kind of accepted that okay, these kind of comments are normal, and that okay, we don't have the courage to always lecture the person and stand for ourselves, and it's like we are like let it be.
It's not working.
Yeah.
Even if we go into shops, malls, anywhere or gym or any area, even if we go to college, we just cannot lecture and fight for ourselves every time. We are like, okay, it's a one-time thing, let it go now. It's normalized and I'm used to hearing such comments. It's no such big deal for now. For me, that it's key to take a career.
Yeah. Because normalizing of this is really an issue. So that's what I'm saying, that mindsets have to change over time. It doesn't happen overnight. And we have to go through that process, and we have to fight back when it is required.
It's also about perception, like she mentioned about animal. The person should also have a perception that if what he or she is perceiving from that movie, if someone is witnessing domestic violence, it's up to the child that he should perceive that okay, I will not do this what my father is doing, or I will just copy him or what he is doing.
Yes. So do you know that there's something called the cycle of violence? It's very important to have counseling for children who've seen domestic violence. Because when there's been a perpetrator of violence in the home, what happens, and I learned this at the cell most of all when I sat at the Crime Against Women cell for 5 years and counseled women there, and children and men and in-laws, everybody used to come. And one of the things that I saw was that when a boy has seen domestic violence at home, instead of hating the crime of domestic violence, he starts hating the perpetrator of that violence. So that hate becomes ingrained in him. And then he goes on and just does exactly the same thing. When a woman witnesses her father beating her mother in the home, she's going to normalize it in her mind, and it'll be that much easy for her in her relationships to be a victim of violence as well. You know, so those cycles need to be broken, and those can be done only through counseling and communication. By the way, women inherently mentally are stronger than men. Men are more physically strong,
Yes.
right? Our ability to look at circumstances and go on with circumstances is much more. Imagine if a man had to give birth to a child, the world would stop. You know, that's the kind of pain and endurance that a woman has. The mental ability to deal with situations, because we communicate a lot.
Yeah.
When men do not communicate, then these kind of things happen, and it shouldn't happen. Nobody should suffer, and justice should be done to everybody.
Like that, what ma'am said initially, that it's not only equality about women, it is about everybody.
Every single person.
Every single gender, everybody should be equal.
Ma'am,
Yes,
nowadays
Vijay.
there's so much talk about gender equality. So some women do fake feminism, like instead of supporting females, they demean men and they
Yeah.
say that they are feminists. So what is your view on?
So, but you see, that's the thing. At the end of the day, why do we want gender equality? Why do we want that women should rise? It's not so that they can step on men,
Right.
right? It is so that they have equal opportunities, so that they have equality in being who they are, right? And create a world. At the end of the day, we should all be working for a better world. And better worlds do not come by stepping on each other. It's by raising each and every person and raising each other, so we will also rise. Yes, Vijay?
So, why do you think that domestic violence happen? Like, why do people do it?
Domestic violence happens, like every other kind of violence happens, when you want power and control over somebody. Anything that you see that is going out of your control, then you become violent about it. You control the person by way of your mind, you control them by not letting them go out, you control them financially,
What they have to
you
wear,
control,
what they don't have to
so
wear.
many things. All this is violence.
Like, why do they want to control?
So human nature sometimes seeks control. It's power games.
How does it happen?
Every person's experiences are so different as they grow up, right? Some will do it because they've seen it in their family and it's normal for them, so they've normalized it. Some people will see it when they want something from their spouse and they are not getting it, or their partner and they're not getting that. Why are people violent? Why do people react in a certain way and other people don't?
Or past with in school, like which is graduating, and then like a lot of friends they've seen domestic violence like happen at home, and then what happens is because the relation between the families are so bad, the children they can't even focus on study. Like it gets so bad, like they're not able to give their boards, they're not able to give their exams, and then even if you going, you're like even when you're working with people. There's this constant fear of that, that something is going to happen. And then, because the cases are going on for so long, the hope that everything's going to get fixed goes away. So when someone who's like 17 years old or 16-year-old, and she's been seeing that happening in her family since she's like been 8, and counseling doesn't help, talking doesn't help, the family is not communicating. Then there's just a constant cycle, because then there's no way out of it and there's no way to figure it out. Then what do we do?
So, Bete, counseling does help actually. Because over time, what happens is, and if you're going through something like this, it's very important to set up your own, whether you are being the one who has violence being done to you, or you have in your family, you're seeing it and you're living through it as a family. It's very important, and that's how I survived. You set up your own systems that will listen to you, that will be close to you, your friends, your relatives, certain people who will be able to just listen to you, because even communicating what you're going through is a very big thing and a release. And the biggest thing in life is to be self-sufficient financially.
That's important.
Because once you are there, then you have the ability to create your own life. So it is hard when you're seeing something like this and living through it on a daily basis. But at the end of the day, we also have to know that if we have to survive this, we have to be mentally strong enough to focus on ourselves and focus on our education so that we can then get into earning and get out of those cycles. And then if it's either of your parents going through the violence, and become supportive of that parent and take it on, you know. We can only better the world or better our lives when we better ourselves and become stronger.
And even if there is no violence, but there is some overshadowing and within parents and there is not a good environment, then also there is a big mental impact on the children even if the violence is not happening. And there is some scar on the childhood which cannot be healed. And then what should we do?
So, Bete, you know, we all carry scars. If you think that it's only one person just because she's been through violence, life is about taking on challenges, going through that experience, taking the learning, and then moving on. None of us are 100%, you know. We are all in certain ways less abled, less thinking, more battered. Each one of us. But the idea of life is not to give up. The idea of life is actually to take on everything, gain the experience, gain the learning, move on. You know? Easier said than done, but it happens. You can do it.
I want to share something. Before I started researching this topic, I did not realize how much inequality exists between girls and boys. At home, my mom and dad share everything equally. And most of my friends also have families like that. But now that I know about this, it makes me feel really concerned. I want to do something to help and make things better. I'm excited to share that I've planned to raise a donation fund, and all the proceeds will go to Ma'am's organization, the Women of the Elements Trust. The link.
Thank you so much. You take on one more child's education in your name then.
Thank you.
We feel very humbled.
The link and details for the donation will be shared online in the next few days. I truly hope I can count on your support to make a difference together. Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking the time to share your valuable insights and experiences with us. I can't express my gratitude enough. It was so inspiring to learn from you. And a big thanks to everyone who joined and made this session so special. It means a lot to have you here.